All right, next up, what we're going to work on is the water bodies layer. Okay, this one's very similar to what we just did with the boundary layer. And so what I want you to do again is turn everything else off. Bring up your water bodies layer. And so I think what I'd like you to do on this one is, again, we're going to try and delete off all these other features because, to be honest, this is actually looking pretty like it's in pretty good shape. Now we can change layer style, we can do a lot of things to it. But here's my suggestion is that we activate the layer, and let's use the magic wand. Select all of the white space. It might help if I was actually on the right layer. Right? Use the magic wand. And in this case, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn this contiguous button off. I want all the white on this layer to just disappear. Alright? You see what that did is that it selected everything out. Even the little islands sitting kind of in the middle, kind of tucked in around here, are now all gone. Now, I've got all this information, and I've got a problem because I still have all of this like extra stuff, the title and all this stuff that we just erased the white space on. It actually kind of changes the resolution. And so what I would suggest doing is go ahead and use the marquee tool again. And let's just go through and simply delete off everything, including the boundary. Doesn't really need to be there. We have it on the other drawing, and it's on the base. So we'll just quickly go through and delete off the other pieces. And now when we turn back on our base, look what we have. We have that. We have our, we've got the parcels. We've got our boundary, the water bodies, and now we have the boundary on top. The last step in the process begins exactly the same, or not the last step in the process, but the next step in the process is with the wetlands layer. And so again, I'm going to turn everything off. Wetlands layer, very similar. In this case, use the contiguous, again, make sure you're on the right layer. Select everything, delete it off. And this time I'm just going to draw a quick box all the way around my wetlands information. And then I'm going to use that Control-Shift-I, that inverted selection, Control-Shift-I, and I'm going to hit delete, and away it all goes. But here's one of those issues, and this is one of those things that certainly does pop up, is that raster data that comes in at a 30 meter by 30 meter grid just does not look good. There's no way that I can go in and manipulate the imagery here to try and make it look good. I could try to add a drop shadow, and you see it just makes it look more like a checkerboard. And that may be okay for certain types of drawings, but it's not what I'm looking for here. And so what I want you to do instead, now that we've got it ready to go and kind of sitting here, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn off the layers I'm not using for the moment. I want you to create a new layer. Again, that's hiding down here at the bottom of the layer menu. And then we're going to use the brush tool. Brush tool sits over here. Again, you may have to select on it to find it. And for me, again, I'm on a new layer. If I were just to start drawing, it's all on a new layer. I could then move that layer around if I wanted, but I don't really want to do any of that. And so again, I can come back up to the history menu that's hiding here, and I can walk my way back to where I created the new layer. Go back to my brush tool. I'm going to go ahead and pick a color. It's a wetland, and so I want kind of a greenish blue color. And I'm going to come in here and kind of look at this. And so the instructions basically suggest that, let's use this brush tool to create kind of a pixel cloud. So what do I mean by a pixel cloud? Well, first I'm going to make sure that my settings are right. So I've got it set to 8 pixels in size. Hardness is set to 100 so that it's not see-through, so that it has a firm edge to it. And then I'm going to create a 1 inch by 1 inch pixel cloud. Now, what I mean by that is that you can see here's the ruler up top. I can create, there's a 1 inch, right? And I'm dragging using to drag some guidelines out here. And again, kind of sitting up here, I'm just going to start kind of clicking. And again, you just kind of keep adding to this. When I say a pixel cloud, it's just like what you see on here. I'm trying to leave a little bit of space in between them. I'm trying not to drag. I'm trying to click so that I get circles and not big drag marks of color kind of tucked here, there, and everywhere. So kind of creating my pixel cloud, and something like that will work out pretty well. Alright, so what I'm going to do with that pixel cloud is remember that I can drag it wherever I want it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here at the bottom of the page, and I'm going to cover up that green area there. The next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Shift key, or not the Shift key, the Alt key. And you see what the Alt key does is it actually changes my pointer here into a double arrow. What that means is it's actually going ahead and creating a second copy. And I'm just going to kind of drag this pixel cloud, and you'll see I'm creating a bunch of new layers while I'm doing this. So I'm just creating a pixel cloud, and I'm just making sure I'm covering up all of the wetland layers here on top. Right, and I'm going to do that all the way up through the park. Right, especially in these areas, and you don't have to be real exact with this. We're creating a representation of roughly where the wetlands go. And then there's some outlying areas here, and I can always come back in, and it's just gonna be on top of one of these layers, and just kind of add in a few more points with the brush to kind of clean that up. Right, just kind of hit a few points on these ones that I missed rather than copying a whole other layer over on top of them. All right, same thing kind of down through here. All right, so that looks great, except that now we've got over-represented our area of wetlands. There's more than what's really there. And so what I want you to do is that I want you to select all of those layers we just created. All of mine are called Layer 5 Copy, and it's 1 through 28. And so I'm going to pick on the one that's at the top of my list, and you see if I hold the Shift key down and click on the ones below it, it'll go ahead and start grabbing them. And again, so I'm going to zoom all the way down to where I began with Layer 5, double check. Right, once I have all those selected, I'm going to come up here to my layer menu, right, top right corner, and I'm going to ask it to merge layers. So now I have one layer with my pixel cloud sitting on it. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to go back to my wetland layer. I'm going to use that magic wand. I'm then going to do a selection inverse, Control Shift I. And then I'm going to go to that pixel cloud, turn it back on, and I'm going to hit delete. And you're going to see that I mixed that up. And so I shouldn't have inverted my selection actually. And so I'm going to back up in my menu. I'm going to, in my history menu, back to my magic wand. Because I actually want the areas to be deleted that are outside of those boxes. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn off the original. And then I'm going to go in and make some adjustments to this. I'm going to use bevel and emboss. Make that kind of stick up a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of a drop shadow behind this. And you see that now, as I turn back on these other layers, and if I don't like the color even, if I want it to pop a little bit more, I can do a color overlay where I go grab something with a little bit more green to it maybe. Still want it to kind of stand out, so maybe something like that. Something that pops a little bit more away from the water, right? And there I've got my waterways and my wetlands.